Good morning, my reader friends. My name is Erin Rogoff, and welcome back to my BookTube channel. I wanted to make a check-in video of all the books that I have read so far this year, so here's hoping you enjoy my recap. The first book that I read in the new year is Quarantine the Loners by Lex Thomas. This is a young adult fiction, science fiction novel, and it's basically the Gone series meets Lord of the Flies in a dystopian high school setting. My rating, 5 out of 5 stars hands down. I loved this book. This was a great book to start off with in the new year, and I have had an obsession with dystopian novels since COVID began, so this helped quench my thirst. I also read the sequel to Quarantine the Loners, and that is Quarantine the Saints, and it focuses on Will and Lucy without the main lead, David, and they have to fight harder than ever to survive. My rating, 5 out of 5 stars, and if it's possible, 10 out of 5 stars, because I loved this book. I know this book received a lot of mixed reviews, but my review for this book is that it is so good and so worth the read. Another book that I read this year is The Wildlands by Paul Grecki. This is another young adult sci-fi novel, and it's about this boy named Travis and his younger sister Jess. They have to survive in a dystopian Alaska after the world enters an EMP thriller. And for those of you who don't know, an EMP thriller is basically about an electromagnetic pulse where all the power shuts off and the world goes into chaos. And in the book, Travis and Jess meet friends and enemies along the way, so will they live to tell the tale? My rating, 5 out of 5 stars. The first book that was in my DNF zone for this year is Edgewater by Courtney Scheinmel. This is a young adult fiction mystery novel, and I do not think I will ever finish reading this. I just really didn't like the book, and I did judge the book by its cover when I first got the book, but now I highly regret it. This book is personally not worth the read. It had a plot that I thought was really interesting, but it was just such a letdown that this is probably my least favorite read of 2021. My rating for this book is 1 out of 5 stars. The next book on my list is Okami by Renee Adaya. It is a young adult fantasy novel, and it's about this king named Khalid who is set to marry his 72nd bride in 72 days. But he wonders why any girl would be willing to marry him because he's cursed. If he marries a girl, she dies before dawn, so why is that? My rating, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it, so I rated it 3 out of 5 stars just because I was indifferent to it either way. The next book that we have is The Mirror and the Maze, also by Renee Adaya, and it's another young adult fantasy novel. As far as the summary goes, Khalid has married his 72nd bride, and she has lived well past their wedding night. And now he has left the kingdom of Ray for a short time and returns to find it burning and in ruins. What has happened to his beloved kingdom, and where is his beloved queen? Again, I rated this book 3 out of 5 stars, and our next book is Fear Street Party Games by R.L. Stine. This is a young adult fiction horror novel, and Party Games is your typical 1980s birthday horror movie plot where the rich boy hosts a party and has all his friends over, chaos reigns, and then the girl that he likes finds out that ghosts really are real by the end of the book. And as someone who was obsessed with R.L. Stine's books as a kid, I loved this book. My rating, 10 out of 5 stars. Since this book is a 2-in-1 book, there is also Don't Stay Up Late, and it is another young adult horror novel. And after Lisa gets in a car wreck, her dad dies, and she starts seeing vivid hallucinations and sees things that aren't really there. But is she really dreaming, or are these things that she sees real? My rating, 5 out of 5 stars. The book was amazing. It kept me going from beginning to end. I just loved it so much, and I can't stop raving about R.L. Stine's books. Moving into the realm of fantasy, we have Sun and Moon, Ice and Snow by Jessica Day George. This is a young adult fiction fairy tale retelling, and it's a Norse retelling of Beauty and the Beast that is unique and beautiful, original, and quite addictive. And it has become one of my favorite Beauty and the Beast retellings. My rating, yet another 5 out of 5 stars. I just love Norse mythology, and I am Norse myself. I do have family that is Norse, so I have a soft spot for basically anything European, but especially Norse. The next book we have is another sci-fi novel, and it is The End, Genesis by Zion Cage. It's another EMP thriller that I think is perfect to read right now because of COVID-19. Is it just me, or do you feel like you want to read a bunch of sci-fi novels just because it feels like we're living in a sci-fi novel right now because of the pandemic? I didn't love this book, and I didn't hate this book, so again, I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Moving on to a classic from about 10 years ago, we have The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This is a young adult dystopian romance, and I am pretty sure that we all know what the Hunger Games trilogy is by now, right? Well, I saw the movies when they first came out, but I didn't read the books until a decade later, and now rereading the whole series, I love the books because I have missed so many details that were not talked about in the movie. So my rating, 5 out of 5 stars. Now talking about the sequel to The Hunger Games, we have Catching Fire. This is another young adult dystopian romance, and I really appreciated the writing style and the way that Katniss really fell for Peeta, even if she does seem extremely shallow at times, which ticks me off just because movie Katniss and book Katniss seem like two entirely different people. Still, my rating is 5 out of 5 stars. Anyone who knows me knows that I love books where the author's first name is Erin, or in a book, a character is named Erin. I don't know if that's just my vanity talking or otherwise, but I wanted to review Bled Dry by Erin McCarthy. It is a contemporary fiction paranormal romance novel, and it focuses on a vampire scientist who gets a half-vampire girl pregnant during a one-night stand. Then he goes to Daddy Boot Camp and learns how to be a real dad. I absolutely loved how this novel focused on a pregnant protagonist, because when do we really get to see that? I mean, most of the books that I read with a pregnant lead are, she's pregnant, she gives birth, then the story happens. With this book, it's the girl gets pregnant, she learns how to be a mom, the story happens, she gives birth, the end, and now there's an epilogue. My rating for this book, 5 out of 5 stars because I loved it so much. Another sci-fi book that has yet to quench my thirst for all sci-fi books is The Gathering Horde by Rich Baker. It is a sci-fi zombie horror novel, and I do have a soft spot for zombie novels. This is a quick read novella that was a bit confusing to me, but only at first. I have the sequel, so now I definitely want to get around to reading that next. My rating for this book, 4 out of 5 stars. Another book that I would like to discuss is I Am Jazz by Jessica Herthel. It is a children's fiction LGBT novel, and it's basically a liberal explanation of a transgender child. I do not typically read children's fiction, so that's why I didn't like the book. I prefer more cerebral books, and this wasn't that at all, so it didn't really fit the criteria for something that I liked. My rating for the book, 1 or 2 out of 5 stars. I'm still debating, but it is an interesting novel just because you sort of get the young mindset to what transgenderism is. Where would one of these videos be without a Sarah J. Maas book? I read A Court of Silver Flames, which is a new adult fantasy romance novel, and we have heard about Feyre Archeron and Rhysand in the first books. Now it's the turn of our moody Nesta Archeron and Cassian. And in my previous videos, is it blatantly obvious that I have a huge crush on my beloved Cassian? My rating for this book, 10 out of 5 stars. I love it immensely and I want more Nessian. The next book on this list is In Too Deep by Lucia Jordan. I am not showing you the cover page because it is a little explicit, and it is an adult romance novel, and it's one of those types where you can read it in one sitting, and it does not fail to please, for me at least. My rating for the book, 4 out of 5 stars because I loved it so much. The next book on this list is one of my favorite paranormal romance novels of all time, and that is Her Vampire Prince by Inez Johnson. Hadrian is a vampire who mourns the loss of his lover, and Carinian is a human who chases the high before death after her dad died in a car wreck while she lived. Carinian goes skydiving and falls into Hadrian's arms, literally, and the two fall deeply in love. This book was my first Stockholm Syndrome taboo romance novel, and it is worth it. I love it so much that I emailed the author, Inez Johnson, to tell her how much I loved the book, and she emailed me back saying that she was blushing at her computer as she read my fan mail. So that was really cool. Another book on this list is I Hope You Stay by Courtney Peppernell. This is a poetry novel about a first love failing and the aftermath of it all. Then finding new love and realizing that that love is the love that you needed all along. My rating for this book, 5 out of 5 stars. Moving on to more Kindle books, we have Wedding Hells by Jennifer Gilby Roberts. It's a chick lit comedy, and it's about a girl who attends her sister's wedding, which is a disaster for the girl. Her dress is hideous and rips, her best friend isn't invited to the wedding, the wedding cake isn't even cake. I do not know how that's possible, because as you can tell, I love my cake. I despised this book before I realized that it was actually a comedy, so I was under the impression that the author was trying to get a horrid rise out of the reader, and it was just such a huge misunderstanding on my part that I rated the book 1 out of 5 stars. But then once I realized that it was meant to be that way and meant to be a comedy, I thought, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. Yeah, it is funny. If you are looking for an LGBT holiday romance novel, I would highly recommend Whiskey Christmas by Kate Ashwood. It's about a guy who wants to give his boyfriend the best birthday ever because his birthday is so close to Christmas, it's pretty much looked over. So can this guy make his boyfriend's birthday really memorable? My rating, 4 out of 5 stars. It is so sweet and so beautiful that I want to read the rest of the series. The next book that we have is Light Filters In by Caroline Kaufman. This is another book by teenage poetry sensation Caroline Kaufman, aka Poetic Poison, on her Instagram page. This book is about romance, sexual abuse, love, and relationships. My rating, 4 out of 5 stars. However, now that I think about it, I probably would have rated it 3 out of 5 stars on my Goodreads page, just because it didn't really strike me as deeply as other books that I have read, such as books by Courtney Peppernell or Rupi Kaur. That's just me though. If you have a different opinion, that's fine too, because this is not an attack on you. Now we have Escorting Daddy's Billionaire Best Friend by Lacey Ryder. This is an adult romance about a girl that covers for her friend as an escort for one night, but she winds up being an escort to her dad's billionaire best friend. And the billionaire, who fell for the girl after she grew up, skips out on the event and takes the girl back to his penthouse and hooks up with her. This is a taboo age gap romance, but I enjoyed it. I know this book isn't for everyone, but I really did love this book. And not the escort part, I cannot get that across enough. I just liked the taboo daddy's best friend romance. My rating for the book, 4 out of 5 stars. Another book that we have on this list is Dearest Stalker by Lane Parker. It's a taboo romance because it's a stalker romance. And this nameless stalker is obsessed with a girl who doesn't know that he exists, but he vows to make her happy, even if he has to do it from a distance. So after the girl's dad dies, he goes to the funeral and follows her because he is her stalker. and he knows that she needs comfort. So he hooks up with her, and is it actually possible that she could fall in love with him too? This book I rated 1 out of 5 stars just because it didn't impress me at all. I thought I would enjoy it because it was a taboo romance, but not really. It isn't worth the read for me. I'm not going to read the rest of the series. It's not worth it to me, and I am so sorry, Lane Parker. The third to last book is Ghost Camera by Darcy Coates. Anyone who knows me knows that Darcy Coates is my favorite author of all time, and Darcy Coates has written another paranormal fiction novel that is so worth the read, so thrilling, so amazing. I have nothing bad to say about it. It's about this girl named Janine who goes to her friend's wedding and finds an old Polaroid camera which photographs ghosts who want to hurt humans. So with the help of Janine's best friend Bree, will they undo Janine's ghostly curse? My rating, 5 out of 5 stars. Another taboo romance novel I loved is Dangerous by Nora Ash. It's about this guy named Blaine who kills for a living, and he's intent on making Mira his, even if it means breaking her. Mira ran from her past 8 years ago, but now that it's caught up with her, she is pregnant with Blaine's baby, so what will happen now? My rating for the book, 5 out of 5 stars, yet again. And the final book on this list is Elusive Storm by Lily Campbell. This is a contemporary mystery thriller novel, and it's about a group of people who are stuck in a shady motel in the middle of nowhere during a record-breaking storm. When a priest winds up dead in the motel, everyone is a suspect in the murder, so who could be the culprit? My rating for the book, 3 out of 5 stars, just because the ending was not what I wanted it to be, because there was so much more potential than it could have had, but it just didn't, so that's why I chose my rating. Anyway, that is all for today, so if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button to show some support, subscribe to my BookTube channel to get more videos like this, turn those notifications on to be notified when I have a brand new video uploaded. Keep on reading and have a great day, everyone!